So we normally, the Human Services Commission does a roll call. So we have guests on the phone, welcome all. And what I'd like to do is have the people in the room start, and we'll start down to my left with Joe Krejci. And when you say your name, please also say what commission you're a part of, and just quickly what you do, because we're doing that for the benefit of our guests.
Okay.
Okay?
Hi, I'm Joe Krejci. I'm on the Human Services Commission. I'm recently retired. I've been a long-time resident of Fairfield and active Fairfield University alumni.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Barbara Paris. I'm the Human Services Commission. I won't go through all my different jobs I have, but I teach at Southern Connecticut and on the Hillel there, and I work at Watermark 3030 and at Choke Roseberry Hall, but a long-time Fairfield resident and former Vice President of Jewish Family Service, which now is in Fairfield.
Hi, I'm Beth. Yes. Hi, I'm Beth Leach. I'm a detective with Fairfield Police Department. I've been with Fairfield PD 24 years. I'm in youth services.
I'm Mary Ellen Gavin. I'm on the Health and Human Service Commission, registered nurse and geriatric care manager, and also a hospital discharge center.
I'm Carolyn Gertie. I'm retired, and I'm on the Human Services Commission, and I serve as the representative to the board on this commission.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Castani. I am a 33-year retiree of the town of Greenwich, Connecticut. I was the program coordinator for the Greenwich Senior Center. I've held political office for about 15 years of my life, not recently, but in the town of Trumbull. I'm active in my faith community, and I'm on the Human Services Commission.
I'm Laura Inserto. I'm chair of the Human Services Commission, proudly. And I am a self-employed individual in two businesses, a home care agency that I ran, Home Care on Call, and I have a promotional products business. And I'm also an active alum to Fairfield University and live here in Fairfield.
Hi, I'm Morty Schwartz. I'm immediate past president of the Kennedy Center. I have been president and CEO of the Kennedy Center for approximately 40 years. I'm also a surveyor with the CARF, the Commission on the Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities, and I serve as a distinguished visiting professional for Fairfield University. I like that title a lot, and that's why I'm doing it. And
Hi, my name is Loretta J. I'm on the Human Services Commission. I wear a few different hats. Among them are do consulting for municipalities and nonprofits on program development focusing on marginalized communities. I do special ed advocacy. I'm a past president of NAMI Fairfield and other things.
I'm Sheila Tessie. I'm the recording secretary, and I work for the Fairfield Fire Department. I'm the fire chief secretary.
Gwen Steele, and I'm the director of the Vigilance Center.
And I'm Julie DeMarco, Human Services Director.
Excellent. So can I ask who's on the phone?
Dan, you want to start?
Yes, my name is Dan. I'm on the Commission on Disabilities, and I am the pastor at Trinity Baptist Church here in Fairfield, and I've been a resident of Fairfield for almost 10 years.
Thanks. All right,
and I am Ron Piccolo. Yep, I'm Ron Piccolo, Commission on Disabilities, 7-year resident of Fairfield, but native of Connecticut for many more years than that. I have absolutely no ties to Fairfield University, but really glad to be part of the town and the commission.
Thanks. Anybody else on the phone? Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. So good afternoon again, everyone, and welcome. So happy to see the new faces in the room and hear from those on our conference call. Thank you for joining. This is actually a unique meeting today. It's the first time that we're combining two commissions, the Human Services Commission and the Commission on Disabilities here in Fairfield. And I'm honored to welcome you all. Ron, thank you so much for all you put into getting this meeting together, and everyone for service to our town. It's so especially important today because the Commission on Disabilities was actually initiated and voted upon by this Human Services Commission. So it's so poignant that we're all together and, finally meeting one another, if not in person, on the phone, and to actually share this mission and goal together that we created. So it's really exciting. And I'm thrilled to have you, Ron, as chair of the commission, and your members, but also to thank the Human Services member, Marty Schwartz, who is stepping up and offering his time and talent to be our liaison on your commission. So that is going to be very helpful to us, and thank you for that, Marty. But before we launch into our commission agenda, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today, Detective Beth Leach of the Fairfield Police Department. Detective Leach is going to enlighten us about the Juvenile Review Board here in Fairfield. It wasn't until I received the background information from Julie that I wasn't even aware that this board existed. So it's extremely enlightening for me to hear what you have to say today, Detective, and the specifics of the board. So I'd like to turn it over to you.
Okay. On the edge of my chair, I'm excited. Thank you for having me. And I'm trying to speak up. I know there's people on the phone there, but Pastor Dan on the phone there is a member of the Juvenile Review Board. So he already knows all this stuff, and we're happy that he's very, very grateful that he has volunteered his time and is on the board. I've worked for Fairfield Police Department for 24 years. Most of my career has revolved around kids in this town. Dare officer, school resource officer at Ward. Then I got promoted to the Detective Division in 2009, and by 2010 I was in the Youth Bureau, which at the time was 2 detectives, myself and Fred Caruso. That's our old name. Fred Caruso was here for many, many years. And 2 of us did crimes against kids. But then as the years went along, things have really changed with juveniles in the state of Connecticut. The importance of police in the schools got more and more important. It was just me and another officer at Ludlow when I was a school resource officer. Then our school security unit really ballooned, and we have officers at each high school, but then 5 other officers that rotate through the middle schools, the elementary schools. They teach a program called SMART, where it used to be like DARE, staying under drugs, but now it's internet safety, getting along with others, following the rules of the road. So they not only teach, but they also handle a lot of the lower level, like bullying stuff amongst middle school kids. But that lightened the load for detectives. Instead of us doing the bullying stuff, we got to focus on the bigger issues. So then Fred Cruiser retired. I became more of a special victims unit with another detective that does domestic violence, adult sex assault, and crimes against the elderly. So that's Jason Tackus now. Some of you might know Jason. So between Jason and I, we are the special victims unit. But my specialty is crimes against and involving kids. Through all of this, we had a big change in Connecticut, really nationwide, about raise the age. When I first started as a patrol officer, we were treating 16 and 17-year-olds pretty much as useful offenders. You're almost an adult. You can be questioned by the police, patted down. You can answer questions. If you're under 16, you were technically a juvenile. You would go to a separate court. So that 16, 17-year-old, back when I started, was pretty much treated like an adult. They're driving a car. They have a lot more independent time. But that became problematic, and there was a push to raise the age to everyone under 18 is a juvenile. So that started in 2012. So that was a big change for police to have to handle, also for the courts. There was a huge influx because 16 and 17-year-olds, they're really out in the world. Like, they are having more contact with police because they're driving, they're working jobs, they have more independent time. So court kind of balanced that out, juvenile court balanced that out with saying, like, we want you towns, Connecticut and nationwide, but I'll just speak on Connecticut, we want you to start having your own board. where you can have these juveniles that are committing lower level things answer to the town. So in 2014, we started our own diversion program. They were called initially Juvenile Review Boards or Juvenile Diversion Programs. So we modeled ours after Shelton PD. So back in 2014, Shelton PD already had a Juvenile Review Board for 25 years. They've been doing it a long time. The unique part about Shelton is that Shelton had two part-time staff people that worked in youth services. So they worked for the town of Shelton, and their 20 hours a week was each devoted to all things youth services. So they had offices in the high school, and they could devote their on-duty time to these kind of diversions from court. So let me go back and explain what a diversion from court is. So I'm going to also be reflecting back to 2014, 15, 16, the early years, where towns would have a juvenile would commit an offense like shoplifting or possession of alcohol by a minor or maybe a push and shove in the school hallway. And whoever is involved, whether it's Kohl's or the school, would say, we want charges pressed. We want an arrest made. So police, Shelton Police, or Fairfield Police, wherever the incident happened, would make an arrest. So let's say we have a 16-year-old arrested for shoplifting at Kohl's. They're issued a summons to juvenile court. So that paperwork is done. Parents have to come and sign the waiver or the referral saying, yes, I understand my child's been arrested. If it wasn't a serious nature, they wouldn't be transported anywhere. They would be signed off that they're agreeing to go to court. The paperwork would then come to to me, and I would review it and say, is this a child that's never been arrested before? Have they been dealt with on lower level stuff? Can we divert them to our board? And if it wasn't violent, if no one was hurt, and if it was a property crime, we would divert it to the juvenile review board, which means court would never learn this child's name. They would never have the beginning of a criminal record, because every time you send a child to court, that's the beginning of their criminal record. And that's the whole idea, is let's handle these kids that are committing an offense against Fairfield. Let's deal with our kids. If it's something we can't handle, if they're hurting, if they're using weapons, if they're doing, something big, then yes, that's for court to handle and to have mandatory or consequences with teeth, basically. So we started handling the lower level stuff. How did we build our JRB? We put a plea out to the community. The Rotary Club was very big in getting this launched. Debbie, oh my gosh, Debbie, so we don't ever give her an award.
All I can do is
Debbie Clancy. Yeah, Debbie Clancy and Jenna Paulus from Park and Rec. They became the other two pillars of this program. But the Rotary Club really got behind this back in 2014, and business owners sat on the board for the most part initially, and then we got people from school to sit on the board, guidance counselors, school nurses, secretaries, some of the deans. So we got a good response initially. And it was all volunteer time. And so these kids would come with their parents, and they would sit kind of in a room like this, with the audiences out there. They would sit at the police department in the classroom, facing the board, and kind of like facing your community. And the child would have to talk about what they did, and the board would ask questions. Then they'd leave the room, and we would discuss the consequence. And we would meet with them and then give them community service hours, or they would write a research paper on marijuana, what it does to the brain, if that was the issue. We also would send them to a Mothers Against Drunk Driving class if it was alcohol or marijuana violation, because that's run by kids, teaching kids why it's not a good choice. So several different consequences. So that did well for quite some time, but you know how it is, you have a great group initially, and then you start to lose steam and you lose a few volunteers, and the cases started getting more serious. And then as we got to COVID, that was definitely hard. We put into our group meetings. We just did kind of boutique type meetings with maybe 3 of us, and doing a lot over the phone. But we started to get dependent on heavier from court. So now, so juvenile court has continued to kind of peel off the amount of things that they're dealing with. they really want to decriminalize crimes that kids are committing under 18 years of age, which is great when it's low-level stuff. It's not so great. You know, we've had this huge influx of stolen cars and the break-ins, and, you know, if you've seen any of our forums where we talked about the juveniles that are committing these crimes with the cars and assaulting people, like, that's not for the juvenile diversion program. That stuff needs to go to court. And there was a couple of years where we really battled the juvenile court, saying, like, hey, you guys have to step up. This is dangerous. You know, police, we don't want to be chasing juveniles in cars, like, you know, and then laws are put into place that we can't. You know, we know a juvenile is behind the wheel. By law, police cannot pursue that juvenile, even in a stolen car. We have to be able to prove that they're about to hurt somebody for us to, you know, follow them. So, you know, it's
So they just get to run.
I mean, if you want to hear my opinion, yeah. But we've continued to hash it out in all these forums and all these politicians getting behind us, getting behind the police, and we're like putting the issues out on the table has been very helpful. And court has taken some very positive steps forward. So they have mandated next day court dates for repeat stolen car offenders or any gun charges. Like, the child has to go to court the next day, which is great because we used to have to put their court date out 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks time, they're out committing more offenses. You know, where they're in this, like, you know, purgatory basically, where we've arrested them, but they've not seen a judge yet, and we can't take them into custody. The rules of taking juveniles into custody also changed per our state law. We can only take in a juvenile into custody and transport them to juvenile detention if we have probable cause, which basically means evidence that they're going to hurt someone else in the community. So if we take them out of the stolen car that we just chased them in or they ran from us in, if we take them out of that car, we have no evidence to show that they're going to do that again if we don't take the detention. So, like, for us to say, like, hey, Your Honor, we would like to take this juvenile into court because they just endangered the whole town of Fairfield with a pursuit or ran from us, and people are calling, and we followed this car, and then they crashed, and the partner in the car was hurt, and we would like to transport them to detention right now. And the judge would say, well, you have no evidence that they're going to do it again right now. So leave them on their own accord and, you know, give them their court date, and we'll hear in the back.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I went. Can you hear me?
Yes, but
you can't hear me?
We'll take questions at the end, okay?
Yes.
So I don't want to go too far into the juvenile court has stuff with that kind of serious stuff. They're taking that next day. They're giving us the ability to look at more history with these juveniles. But and that on the flip side of that, they are standing back from more and more crimes that, as a juvenile review board, we had sent to court. So, like a domestic violence incident, mom and son fighting, mom and daughter fighting, assaulting each other. We would send, or let's say the juvenile assaulting the parent. We would send that to court, saying, like, this is a violent offense. We have concerns. You know, we want court to handle that. They're not taking that anymore, unless it's like the 4th, 5th time it's happened. Or grave physical injury, like someone gone to the hospital. They're not taking any truancy issues anymore. DCF for a while was handling truancy if the child just would not go to school, and if the school had exhausted all their resources, like home visits, sending the school resource officers to the house, negotiating with the child, getting mental health involved. If the child still doesn't go to school, they would refer that to initially juvenile court, then juvenile court stopped it, DCF was taking it, now DCF won't take it, now it's just JRB. So, you know, we're like, well, if we can't get the child to go to school, how are we going to get them to come to a hearing? And so we're all trying to find our feet with that and how that really helps, and we've pulled more mental health people in on our board, and it has proven to be very helpful. So we handle now truancy, lower level crimes. Well, you've seen the now legalization of recreational marijuana. So you can imagine what a bigger step back juvenile court is taking from that. It's still illegal for anyone under 21, just like alcohol. It's illegal for them to possess or use marijuana. But it's in writing from juvenile court that if you find a juvenile in possession of marijuana, the first offense is a verbal warning. Like, we're not supposed to do anything. So these parents are calling us, like, I just found weed in my kid's bedroom. Like, I've told them numerous times, I've done everything I can, like, please come and help me. Well, like, we'll be right there. We'll give them their verbal warning. Like, it's hard when the parents are trying to manage this stuff and they finally get to the point, like, I've tried everything, I'm going to call the police. And we come and we can't do anything. So first is a verbal warning. Second is a referral to a local diversion program. So we're now the second offense. Some of these towns don't even have DRBs. So for towns that don't have DRBs, their teenager has to offend twice before you can even send it to juvenile court and say, this child is using drugs. And that includes with them bringing it to school. Like, kids can bring marijuana to school. If they get 2 offenses, that means they're caught, there's evidence, and the police are brought in. Like, all those times that they're bringing it and not getting caught are completely under the radar. So we've actually seen a major drop in even the amount of marijuana arrests that are coming to us. And I'm not 100% sure why that's happening. I think even schools have taken a step down. Like, maybe they're managing it themselves because they know there's no consequence. And there's lots of no consequences at home, but that's another issue. So we're handling more as a board. We are largely volunteer at this point. I've been pushing, and I don't know, maybe that's why I got invited here, because I'm banging on all the doors in town.
Looking for members.
Not even members, like, I'm not supposed to be running this. Like, this is supposed to be Fairfield community dealing with Fairfield kids. It's not supposed to be an extension of the police department. The idea of the diversion program is to get the kids away from the juvenile justice system. Like, get them back into the community, get services in place. I have to be honest, most of these low-level offenses of juvenile behavior is not criminal. They're not naughty criminal children. They are mentally challenged, like mental health issues. There's problems in the home. There's problems in their social life. This is a backlash of post-COVID, trying to get back into life. Major mental health issues is what we're dealing with. So it's hard when you see these kids and they come with their parents, and then you get a little bit of the background story, and you're like, why are we going to give them 24 community service hours? Like, they need a martial arts program to be a part of. They need something to do outside of video games. They need to get involved with a sports group or a music group or an acting group, or, I mean, so many of these kids are starved for social activities. Not because they're not there, but there's like a disconnect. I don't know if it's like family's not modeling it for them, or they're new to the community. I mean, there's a variety of things. There's divorce in the family, there's new homes. Oftentimes we see, like, they were in a home as a family, now they're in a 2-family house in Fairfield, because mom's there and dad's in another place, or vice versa. So you see the problems are because divorce in the family, money issues, moving, mental health, like, these are all the things we're seeing. So, you know, we're definitely seeing a change. I think back in 2014, 15, 16, we saw naughty kids. We saw the ones sneaking the drugs to school or shoplifting, but that's really changed. We're seeing more breach of peace, like fighting, some marijuana usage, bullying. The bullying is getting really intense. Like, the things they're saying to each other online are criminal behavior. When they're threatening to, you know, pull the dust out of another kid and string it up for everyone to see, and you'll never want to come to school again. Like, this is serious stuff. And court will not take it. Will not take it. I had an 11-year-old who was vicious, threatening, like, really planned out threatening behavior. And court's like, Beth, I'm sorry, I see, because we know with kids, like, there's early indicators of violence. Like, that's when y'all are trying to get involved in to remove, you know, big violent school situation, or, you know, so we want to get involved early, but we see these indicators. And courts like, Beth, I know what you're saying, but we're not allowed to take an 11-year-old anymore. Like, they will not take 11-year-olds. We had an 11-year-old in West Hartford kill somebody, and there was nowhere to send them. Could not, I mean, there's no juvenile detention center for them. They were in a hospital for like 6 weeks. There's, it's just a little upside down, and that's an extreme situation. But in the meantime, I'm basically looking for a home for the JRB that, Park and Rec's been great. Jenna Paulus, she's been great. She handles all the paperwork, the follow-up, inviting the family and the child. First I call them. So an offense happens. Now there's an automatic screening process in place, juvenile court. I used to screen them myself. Now every juvenile arrest, referral basically, goes to court puts it through a screening process, and then spits it back, basically most of the lower level stuff to Fairfield PD. Now some stuff they'll send back to me and I'll be like, no, we are not taking this. We can't help this family. Something bad's gonna happen. And I'll send like the last 3-4 reports, indicators of physical violence in the home or something like that, and then I'll get back to them. I have a relationship with court, so I'll hear back and they'll say, you know what, you're right on this one, we'll keep it. Doesn't mean it goes like criminal. They still run it non-judicially. So again, that child's not being given a criminal record, but they're being monitored by court. So there's kind of 3 levels. There's a refer back to Fairfield. There's court keeps it, handles it non-judicially, or for the stolen cars, the gun offenses, the major physical violence stuff, and court will handle it judicially. But let me say, it takes a lot to get to the judicial part. And we don't really want that for our kids. And to be honest with you, the Fairfield kids are not falling into that judicial track with court. Like the Fairfield kids are mostly committing the lower level stuff. So that's another issue. We have a lot of kids from out of town that are coming to Fairfield committing crimes. So kids from Bridgeport or New Haven or Waterbury, they do have their own diversion programs. Bridgeport is a powerhouse for their diversion program. They see hundreds of cases diverted from court. They're under the umbrella of riot fast. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Okay. So, they are a powerhouse. It's hard for us to model after them because they're just so big. And they have all this full-time staff, and so we're more modeling on something like Sheldon, where we have Jenna Paulus as a paid employee of the town under Park and Rec, but it would be great to have another person, or I always thought it did belong under social services, especially now because of all the mental health referrals. The Park and Rec was able to donate a chunk of money to LifeBridge mental health services, so they donated a chunk of money there, and so we can refer kids and families to a couple of sessions, and then we hope that they pick up from there. But you all probably know how the finances work. So if there is a needy family in Fairfield, do they get free services there ongoing? So that would be a nice pull them in and own it a little bit, because these are needy Fairfield families, in a crisis time. That's really what therapy is. Right now it is a bunch of volunteers sitting on the board. We're pretty well balanced with mental health, people from the schools. We have our school resource officers. A couple of them sit on the board. Excited. We have had some families of color that are sitting in front of our board and looking out at all white faces, so we are sensitive to that. So we recently pulled in from our school, we do have African American police officer at Ward High School, and he's going to start sitting on the board more regularly. We have a Hispanic female school resource officer that does more of the lower level kids, the middle school kids, and so we're going to pull her in as well, and they're all excited. This is after hours, a little overtime for them, so they love being a part of that. So we're always just trying to be aware of how we can best serve these families, because it really is a crisis situation. We did have some board members of color, but it fluctuates, and that's the good thing and the bad thing about the board is we put an email out, maybe a week before, usually the first Monday of every month is when we have the hearing. We put the email out a week before saying we have 2 cases, we'll be starting at 4, hope to see everybody there. Sometimes we get 30 people. Sometimes we get 10. Either way it's fine. The family gets to basically look out at the community, but sometimes it's very diverse, and sometimes it's not so diverse. So we're trying to be cognizant of that as well. Question?
That's a great explanation. Thank you so much. Seriously.
So is juvenile court centralized within the state, or does Fairfield have its own juvenile court?
Yeah, great question. Yes, we are out of the Bridgeport Juvenile Court. However, over all these years of race to age and decriminalizing, they've shut down juvenile courts all over our state. Yeah. We've always been tied to Bridgeport, but now Bridgeport and Hartford and New Haven, I should say, but mostly Bridgeport and Hartford are the big hubs. So Greenwich comes all the way up to Bridgeport. Newtown comes all the way down to Bridgeport. Even Milford and that whole area of Torrington. Torrington's still alive. It was almost closed. But Bridgeport is the big hub. And then, like communities like Norwalk will have their own juvenile review board and they'll have services there. But for kids coming to court, they have to come all the way up to Bridgeport.
So for Fairfield kids that are referred to the Bridgeport Juvenile Court, and you're identifying them as Fairfield residents having mental health issues. Yeah. Fairfield University used to have pre-counseling centers with done better answers. And answers in social work and they were supervised. And it's part of their clinical evaluation. So, and it was supervised behind glass windows. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, that was pre-COVID. Yeah. So, and they were always looking at for opportunities to use their students. Okay.
The other thing is university right here. And the other esteemed colleague.
Well, the other thing is the Campus Center has a sliding scale mental health service, where they do it by a sliding scale based on income. So, the Campus Center, again, this is pre-COVID, was on Jewett Street, right off in Bridgeport. Yeah. But they provide quite a large service. Well, not necessarily for Fairfield.
We only deal with Fairfield.
No, I know you do. But my point is referring them to for
Fairfield families.
Yeah, sure. It's a Catholic center.
It's Bridgeport.
Okay, so they will take care of it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
The other thing is the town receives ARPA funds for mental health and with no concern for affordability for Lifebridge and child guidance.
Yeah, but this is why we need, like, I'm a detective, like, I can't see, I don't have time to research this, number one. Right. But this is what we need for, if we had, like, a child where we're like, you know what, this is strictly, this child needs mental health services. Like, could we get a connection here to just send the family's contact to saying we would love this family to get introduced to some services, have financial difficulties. So, like, that would be a way to bridge. Yeah.
Well, that is very truly with social services. I would assume you were getting families coming to you that have.
So we get referrals when police go out to a family. We typically don't get involved when school is in session and the child is in school. The schools handle that internally. Right. So if it's somebody who outside of school hours or is not, it's only Fairfield residents, like if for summertime just for coverage, we definitely help them. We don't provide counseling, but we do send them to both Lifebridge and child guidance. The funds cover all of that.
Right. What are the funds?
The American Rescue Plan Act Fund. Yeah.
So are you looking for a group of resources that you'd be able to use when situations come up regarding these juveniles that have specific needs?
Well, I know the resources are here, or like in this town, I do know that. However, I keep, this is 2014, I need someone in this town or some organization to own the juvenile diversion program, the juvenile review board. It shouldn't be run from the police department. It shouldn't be me saying, you need to go get mental health counseling. Like, my push is criminal behavior. Like, that's what my job is. So I can see the offense and push it. I would love to, this is what most towns do. If they receive the offense, they say, this is a candidate for the JRB. Here's their info.
So this is very interesting. Thank you for coming and sharing. I have a spectrum of questions. So first of all, I'm going to start with a couple of questions specific, and then go to part two, I think. Do you ever work with things like ICAT and the other intensive in-home services?
Yes. Well, we can only get those for families when we're working with DCF.
Only with DCF. So you don't have any referring power?
We're not allowed to.
Okay. Okay. So when you talk about Jenna is on the team, but you're looking for a stronger lead to help access mental health services, in September, the Human Services Commission is having a meeting with the Recreation Department, and the topic is the Youth Service Bureau.
It's one of the topics.
Sorry, that's one of the topics. So this is a personal, so that's one of the topics that we'll be talking about, and understanding what's happened with the Youth Service Bureau. I would guess that most JRBs are affiliated with Youth Service Bureaus, so that way they'll have that mental health aspect, the real ability to refer. So this is something that I presented to our commission here about, and to the Recreation, to the Town Charter Commission, that I really think that our Youth Services Bureau with the JRB should be under social services, where there's better access to an understanding of the mental health services in our community. So it's very good to hear you say, from my perspective, yes, because that's something that we're going to talk about more. So just to share that piece with you.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense to me, and I have seen a change, and I would say our community is needier than ever. Its youth community is needier than ever for mental health services, and just the stuff you're rattling off now, it sounds like it's there. You just need the people to hear the issue. Oh, I just heard at the JRB a family talking about what their struggles are. I know the perfect. We need those people.
What's the relationship with mobile crisis?
With JRB?
With Lance, if you get them after mobile crisis goes?
Well, my experience with mobile crisis as a police officer, we refer families to mobile crisis all the time. It's not a huge help. DCF is a bigger help. Police get on scene and, all help regulations, but no one's really committed a criminal act. We can get them on the phone with 211, but they're probably going to come out 3 or 4 days later. But we can tweak it to where it looks like a child's in a dangerous situation. We'll either send the child to the hospital if we have enough for evaluation there, but also we can get DCF to respond. They'll usually respond the next day. If it's really bad, they'll respond that night, and then we get ISO, we get all the services. I look at DCF as the treasure box, because if they accept the case, their family's going to have access to so many services. But I feel like there's a lot untapped, here in this town. So
That's going to be my question. What is the time frame at the time that a child does something and can get involved?
A criminal act, so something as an
whatever.
Well, before a criminal act, it varies. There's the school resource officers that get involved. They really know the kids and the families and the lower level stuff, the bullying, the truancy. So, we sometimes get a report sent up to the special victims unit where that you should be aware of the family, or this is probably going to need JRB eventually because we're doing everything we can at the school level and they're keep reoffending, taking in jewels, or usually it's the jewels or the vaping that they get caught with at school. They're trying to manage that. The next step is marijuana or something like that. So, but with the criminal act, I used to get all the juvenile summonses, and a juvenile arrest. I used to see them all the next day, but now everything goes to court next day. Court just speed that up. So we go to a shoplifting or a possession of marijuana. They're given their little ticket, parents sign it, they get a court date. Next day, we fax it to court now, which really is a huge blessing that we can get that information in court's hands the next day. By the time they review it and get it back to me saying, Beth, we want Fairfield PD or JRB to take this, there's usually a 5-day lapse, sometimes 7. But, so we have a family, went through crisis, responded, really nothing's happening for 5 days or so. For another month. Yeah, totally. This last hearing we had July 25th, which is completely out of the norm, but it is summertime. But I was we don't have enough time to be ready for the beginning of July. It was 4th of July too. We have to see this for the beginning of August. The family needs us.
It didn't seem to make sense because your goal is to divert youth from the juvenile justice when appropriate.
Right.
By handling indicated to JRB. So It sounds to me though, like it goes to juvenile.
It does now.
It comes to you
This
again.
just changed,
Okay.
where are we?
They take it like that, usually.
March is when they started this pilot program,
Okay.
where I was like, okay, you know, like, I'm not gonna, we were gonna go, you know, I have meetings with juvenile court and juvenile probation twice a month. We do a Zoom thing, and they wanna know how, and it's going, which is so new. But, I was like, well, I can keep screening them and take what I want, but I want court to see this stuff, like, see the amount of low-level stuff that Fairfield's handling, or, you know, see the repeat offenders, see the repeat families, you know, rather than I take it. But if they send it to me, there's no criminal record at court. So if it goes to court and then they send it back to me, like it never happened at court.
If it's not a criminal act, though, does the JRB have the ability to mandate services?
Great question, Martin. No, there's no teeth in most of the juvenile court stuff too. I mean, we try and let them think that there's some teeth. Until this recent pilot program where they're doing a screening process, we did have the backup of court saying, the staff will take this and we'll send this to the JRB. Now remember, if you don't do your community service or if you don't write your paper in the next 45 days to be a due deadline, you're going to court. And we used to be able to say that. Now we can't say that. Yes, because as of March, and those were the questions that, you know, I sit with Trump and we're all asking these questions of court, like, if these kids don't do it, like, what are we supposed to do? Work with your resources.
And you can also, it says here in your pamphlet that you can make recommendations.
Yeah.
In different cases.
Right.
I also wanted to ask you said before earlier that you need to find a home jail. Who owns it in Shelton?
Youth services, but they have 2 part-time employees that are employed by under Fairfield Youth Services. Like these 2 people are selling youth services.
And are they under the social services or human services, or are they under recreation? It's typically, they're statewide in my work, and Julie may know more than me, but they're not under recreation.
It's
mostly towns that I'm aware of.
It's both.
Yeah.
You know, more social services.
They do home visits and everything. They have cars, like they have cars, they come down.
We're very.
So visit these families at home.
We're very.
Yeah, so that's 25 years
That's a long
old.
time.
Different conversations, different conversations.
One conversation.
Wait, one conversation. Thank you. Sorry, we didn't hear your question.
No, I guess, what's the budget and where does the money come from? How is it funded?
I don't know.
You know, I mean, it always comes down to who thinks of what, right? You know what I mean? So that we have that, yeah. So, I mean, if they have cars and 2 people, and tax base is a lot lower than our tax base, I mean, where is that money coming from? It's a grant. There's lots, I'm not volunteering, but I used to be a grant writer for nonprofits in Bridgeport. I don't, sometimes it's not used. But my point is, there are grants available for things like that, you can grant writer. You know what I mean? And so, you know, do we have grant writers in the town? You know what I mean?
It's a systemic, we need to look at our systems in town and decide if it's a priority or not. And that's, right now, it's not a priority.
I'm not
And that's where we have to.
I'm not gonna agree with that. It's in a different location, and I think you would like it in another area, and you're right. And I could agree or disagree, it doesn't really matter, but I don't think you can say it's not a priority. I don't think that's fair.
I think we're looking at the resources that we are applying in town to these services, it is demonstrably not a priority. It is not, I don't think,
I mean, recreation is a machine of giving kids things to do. You know, there's great camps and parks and, you know, sports camps and the beanery, or I don't really know. You know, I can deal with the kids having fun. I am dealing with the kids where I'm like, I don't know what to tell the parents, you know, like.
They need mental health services.
Yeah.
Is there, are there openings on the review board now? You know, as this conversation goes, we're not in a position to make this decision as a commission.
Right.
This is a townwide decision, but
I have
perhaps.
sat with Brenda on this.
Right, so maybe there's commissioners who would want to sit on that and be on the juvenile review board and learn about it prior to any work.
Last we spoke, you said there were no openings. Are there now openings?
Well, we limited because I do have a whole list, because you did send one, didn't you? So I was limiting the amount of people that were coming, because we had 30 pages and we're looking at it. But this is what happens, we put we need help appeal out in one of Brenda's newsletters. We had a huge, and that's where we got our increased numbers for mental health. We got child advocates, we got some great therapists, we got Dan, we got more of a diverse group. But I had to say, like, thank you so much, but I have to start a waiting list now. So, summer, people always dwindle. This last hearing was great, it was like 15 people. But, I mean, if any of you want to come and see, you sign a confidentiality agreement, like you come.
Julie?
We just, because everyone wants to ask a question too, so we don't try not to overwhelm these families.
Do you mind if we take a question from the phone? Ron, is that you?
Yeah, it's Dan. Is it possible to say something?
Yes, please.
I mean, I would, first of all, just say, I think that with what Beth and Ginny and Debbie have done, they're doing a phenomenal job, but I think to Beth's point, it's not their first job. It's not their full-time calling. And so there is definitely a need for this board to have an official recognized home, not just because it needs a place, but because there's liability issues involved. You have a board of people who they hear the issue going on in a young person's life and they want to help, but there's a number of, I think, of issues that we need to kind of clarify before we can really help someone. And ultimately, I almost wonder, I'm still learning, but I almost feel like the board's job is not so much to give the solution to the family and to this youth, but to help them get to a place where they can kind of outline some new steps to take to avoid going down the path they were heading down. And so there are needs on the team, but the greatest need is to have a town-recognized official role that is like a social worker, someone who can walk beside this family and help them, follow up with them, make sure that they're making, not make sure that they're making the right decisions, but help them connect with resources that can kind of enforce them making good choices, and specifically the youth making good choices. And I do think, there's so many people on the board that do want to help. It's a wonderful thing, but so yeah, I'm sure there is a waiting list, but I do think some of the needs on the board, there is a need for people who are multilingual, because I think there have been some families that a parent doesn't necessarily speak English, but the youth does, and so the youth themselves are doing the translation. Sometimes Detective Leach she can bring in, if she knows in advance, they can bring in someone who speaks either Spanish or another language, but it's helpful to have that, because there are a number of people in our town that don't necessarily speak English as their first language or whatnot. So I do think that it is definitely a need for the board to have a home within the town's structure. But I also think it needs to be, it needs even to begin to be funded, whether it's, someone to help us write a grant proposal or whatever it be, to fund even a part-time position that's dedicated to this. And then even some of the resources that aren't coming from the youth department to help, provide, some activities, some alternative activities for the youth to engage in that some of these families can't afford to pay for in the immediate moment. So I would affirm what Detective Leach has been saying. I think they've been doing a phenomenal job in just trying to bring attention to it. But so much, it feels like so much of what our role is, since we don't have teeth to kind of hold them accountable to a plan, is maybe just have someone who can help walk alongside them and remind them of some of the decisions that were made or agreements that were made at the Juvenile Review Board that they've kind of made a verbal agreement to pursue after they leave the meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
That was helpful insight.
Yeah, that's 100%, because we have the Peter decides, moves the paperwork to where it needs to go, and then they come to the hearing, and they make the recommendation, and Jenna will send an email saying, like, this is what we lined up for you, Fit Club, Joe and Sarah at Fit Club, they offer free classes all the time for fitness or jiu-jitsu. We just referred our last case to them. But we do need someone, Jenna gets back into her park and rec role because she's had to step away to help with the therapy part. But like, who's checking in? Does that kid actually show up at? We just check with them. We make a 45-day deadline and we check back, have you done your thing? If they haven't done their thing, so like, not much more we can do.
Do you have stats? Like, what is the number of juveniles that are involved every year?
So I don't have a broken down by year, but I just handed out an award to Jenna and a couple other people with awards. So we've seen 66 families since 2014.
Okay.
So, and COVID, of course, took a big step down. We minimized as much as we could patrol on the law enforcement everywhere. I had to minimize. Court wasn't even taking cases. So, but it's probably about 2 cases a month. What we're seeing. Yeah. Sometimes one. Every now and then we have a month where there's no cases, and then we'll have 2 or 3. The truancy during COVID, truancy made a huge leap up, and we just tried to figure that out as we went along. And basically, it was me calling families saying, "Can we help?"
There's a question I have, if I may. What's been your experience as far as the support from the families? So if you have an offender, like a veteran, for whom you say you have to write a paper on the bad things of alcohol and marijuana, does the family help you as far as following up and making sure that these kids do whatever it is you tell them to do? I'm just curious if you have what your experience has been.
For the most part, yes. And they are very supportive, and we see a lot of single-parent families, you can imagine. But there's something about the parent and child coming in and they're heard. And they might be dragging their feet to actually come. But once they come and they get a chance to talk about not just the shoplifting, but all the other stuff, it's amazing the response we're getting from the families. They're appreciative that we took the time to care, that all those faces in the room are sitting there caring about what's going on in the family. So there's been a couple, here and there that have been challenging, and then they end up, honestly, reoffending, and they end up being referred back to court.
I'm just wondering about the support part of the families, so that you find that they get engaged, that they do get engaged, making sure that the child doesn't resort to his or her ways, so to speak.
Yeah, and most of the time, we are not seeing folks from recidivism when they reoffend. So 4 out of the 66 cases, the child reoffended before they turned 18. I don't keep track of what happens after they turn 18, but those are pretty good numbers.
That's an excellent number.
Yeah. Because that's lower level stuff, and then if we can get them out to services, like, that's really the key.
Yeah, no, the meetings are public?
No, we kind of pick and choose who's on the board, and they go through a background check, and they sign a confidentiality agreement, and then we had to put a limit on, there was so many faces in the room, it was going to become overwhelming for the family. But there were times where we were struggling with like 4 or 5 people showing up for the hearing. So since that last push to Brenda's newsletter, we have huge numbers right now. So the numbers are great, and then we also worry about numbers. We have good quality people. Like now, we just need to connect. I just feel the responsibility, and I feel like it's not supposed to be coming from the police department. Like I should be telling families to go get therapy.
So if we had a few commissioners who are interested in coming, that would be an okay thing to learn more, to
send me an
about.
email, I'll send you, did I already send you a form and a confidentiality agreement? So send me an email, I'll send you, it's a 3-page, I have it here, or I didn't make copies and leave it here with you today. It gives, again, another description, a confidentiality agreement, and then just like your email and things like that.
Can we do that Monday?
That's the way
Right, but I'm thinking maybe it would be to go through Laura to send you a bunch of them, or would you rather have people do individuals? Do you care?
Yeah.
Individually is fine, better, so I have an email for each of you, whether it's a town email or whatever.
I got it.
Great.
The link.
my email should be on, oh no, I think.
I got it from Julie.
Anybody on the phone have any more questions?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Detective.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
And
Thank you for the work.
it's gonna get
It's amazing.
recognition. That's awesome.
Yeah, great.
You're welcome.
All right, so you can stick around with me, or you can hit the road. It's entirely
Another meeting.
We're fast.
I'm going on vacation starting tomorrow, so.
Good deal.
I get back to the office, make sure my reports are all signed off.
Nice.
It's
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thank you for all
Thank
that
you
you
all,
do.
yeah, thank you back to all of you, thanks for being here and while you're doing all our events. I know whenever we send something to the senior center, we don't have to worry about it.
It always gets done.
That's how it feels to us, so.
Yeah.
I'm getting away with this.
See ya.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right, great.
Bye.
Be well. Excellent, wow, that was great. Okay, so we can move on to our agenda, and I was going to ask if the Commission on Disabilities, Ron, would you like to give us a report, please?
Ron, you still there? I could probably do that report.
Have that.
We haven't met since May, so, no update from last month to this month.
Okay.
And there's not enough commissioners from that commission to approve its minutes, so as long as I said minutes, I mistyped and said April meeting minutes, but it's May and June.
May and June. Okay. And the next meeting for them is Tuesday, September 13th at 4:15, which is on our agenda. Thank you, Julie.
Sure.
I don't believe I have any updates for Human Services that I need to report as a follow-up.
The veterans breakfast.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. You were going to do it in your...
Okay, thanks.
So Julie and I have been working closely together on the Veterans Breakfast, and obviously because we're a Purple Heart town, we talked about last month at our meeting that we would try to steer it in that direction, but it would be a celebration for all veterans, essentially. So we're working on that, and maybe you can fill us in your department report. But I just recognize we did not approve our minutes. Right. So before we get into that, maybe we should approve our May minutes first.
Great.
Right? Anybody have any comments, questions? All in favor? Second? Approved? Great. And the same for June 23rd? Any questions, comments? All in favor to approve?
I motion to approve the June minutes.
Great. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. I meant to do that. Okay. We did not have a quorum last month, so that's why I weren't able to approve. So, you know, if you can attend, it's really appreciated, definitely. So, great. Okay, so, department update.
Go first.
Brenda.
I'll go first. Everything's going well. Yeah, we just put out the August newsletter, lots of really great things. Fall semester registration will start mid-August, where the fees are included. So far, a couple of comments, but overall, we're doing okay. Nothing surprising, you know, with the update and with the new fee structure. We'll be meeting with the membership just to kind of review all that's going on with the center this month. Yep, this month we'll be doing that in August, so we look forward to that. And yeah, everything's going well.
Good.
Feel free as always to stop in and see us.
Comments where they say, why is it going
Yes,
on?
yes.
And then are they happy when you explain it, or?
No. I mean, I wouldn't say they're like, all right.
No, so
But it's not, but I mean, I wouldn't, you know, I don't think we expected nothing and everyone to walk through saying, you know,
But
we're
is
so
it
excited.
not going to come, or what would you
Yeah,
say?
no, I think just grumbling, you know, just a little grumbling, but, I mean, we kind of expected that. so many
You
people
got
here.
many that have requested help to pay for any requests.
No, because registration hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay. So
But we do know who to approach who may not sign up.
because of that.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can do that in a very gentle way. I can't, Brenda can do that in a
Very diplomatic way.
Now, one of the things I saw was a flyer for membership renewal.
Mm-hmm.
August is your timeframe when you go out for that?
So July 1st it begins.
July,
And it should be done by August 15th by any registration for the upcoming
So that
year.
includes all of us as well.
It does.
Right?
Yep, you have to update your membership, even if no information has changed. It's just, we just need to know that everything is the same and that you are renewing.
And that's basically just go on the website and we'll see the link.
Yes, you see the link, you can stop in.
I feel like we just asked for this, isn't it weird? But now it's already here.
Yeah.
Same as the summer, just slipped right by. It's great, yeah.
And a lot of the out-of-town members are happily paying the $25 membership fee. Very, very grateful
Well, it's
for
a
our
great place.
services.
I mean, this is a treasure trove of fun. I mean, I know you think, senior center old, but this is really remarkable. All that you all put together. I'm very impressed, I really am. And I'm going to try to attend a few more in August.
Yeah,
Anything
please
that
do.
you would like us to be at?
Anything that interests you. Well, you're welcome at, all and everything, but please stop by, see us, and let me know ahead of time and get to give you a personal tour, but I'd love to have you for
November.
the 10th.
It is the 10th.
Great.
Okay, thanks, yeah.
So it's a good segue to my section then. The Friends are going to sponsor the breakfast, the food part of the Veterans Breakfast. They have agreed to that, so we're going to do it as a joint Human Services Commission, Friends of the Bigelow Center event. We'll have the focus be Purple Heart, as Laura said, which would be great. We'll probably get a speaker, but it will invite all veterans. We will not have to charge anybody, which is fantastic.
No charge to anybody.
We will not have to charge anybody, right. And we will probably, because of where COVID is, we probably will have to limit the size still, everything, don't you think?
I think so.
75?
I think it's
So,
probably 70. We've been capping it at 75 inside.
which still looks very crowded.
Is that inside?
Inside.
In the dining room, is it very nasty?
Nope. And it's five people at a table.
Yeah, but
it
it used to be a lot more than that.
used to be 150. Yeah, it used to be a little bit scary. But it's working, we'll see how it goes. We don't know, I wasn't gonna say that, we don't walk through it, but we did go through it. It's great, it is great. So for the department, Brenda is now full-time as of July 1st. July 7th. It is great. And you'll see, is it?
Good work.
It is great. Oh, no, it is great. It really is. Yeah, good question, but it really is.
You can't do that much, there's no way. Yeah, it is, great.
Yeah.
And what's great is she's also doing the newsletter now and the programming. You'll remember that we combined the programming person and Brenda's position. And I certainly hope that, anybody who used to do programming, including me, is not on the phone listening, but to have the cohesion with the planning of it, knowing the seniors and doing it all, it's a lot, but it's, Brenda has a real gift for it, a real knack for it. So I feel very lucky.
Thank you.
We're really lucky.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
And that's why it's big. Like, she really is.
She is.
Her energy is amazing. I know. I used to be and Melinda, our social services coordinator, starts on Monday as full-time in social services. And that's wonderful timing because we are very, very, very busy on the social services side, which totally stresses me out about the youth services thing. As Loretta knows, I'm not averse to it, but we have to work within the system if we want to make change. It's not going to be, we call it, but we are busy. And it makes me nervous to think of taking more on without a plan. So,
Totally agree with you, Julie. I am not looking, when I advocate in this way, I'm certainly not saying, let's just dump on you some more. I think it needs to be a thoughtful, systemic plan with resources to be effective. But I thought that comments were exactly what my concerns are, is that and she kept saying, we need a town person to take this on. We have a town person who's not connected to the appropriate services to meet this population's needs.
No, I get that. Oh, I do get that. But, you know, there's, in the meantime, I would say that if you're interested in it, please sign up to attend some of them and see what it's about. I think staff should be doing that as well, because I don't know.
Then you can see.
Right. Right.
And just so, in terms of our bigger picture conversation, since we're not meeting next month,
Right.
before Anthony's presentation in September, you know, I don't know if you caught on to that comment about the reason it's with recreation is because it's with the Youth Service Bureau, which is, does everyone get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
is what Anthony heads up.
Right, and that's
Right.
part of what we're talking about. That's not the only reason he's coming, because they're also doing their townwide plan, and we want to make sure we
Right.
discuss that too, because that does
Well, he's
impact.
doing a fabulous job in all the recreation things. It's amazing.
It really is, right. So there's a lot going
It's
on
very
in
different.
September.
Which speaks to,
We don't need to keep going in that. But, okay,
can't
yeah, you
help
made
it.
your point, In terms of the rest of the department,
Yeah, can I just ask you about the
Yes.
are we done with the veterans breakfast?
Yes.
Can I just ask, do you need anyone from the commission to work with you on it?
yeah,
I think that would be great, you know
Yeah, I'd like
what
to
I
work
mean?
on
I would like that.
okay, because we're gonna want to have a speaker, we're going to want to have a program, we're going to want to invite, you know, dignitaries. I did connect with Westport about how that came about, and that was, they were contacted by the state to have, the first select woman was contacted by the Secretary of State's office to have an event for Korean War veterans. So it didn't come from the senior center or from social services, it came from the first selectmen who hosted it and had their caterer, our former caterer, do the breakfast, but she did not do the program. But she told me about it, you gave me a copy of it. And that's something we could, typically with the Veterans Day, we have a pledge, we have a color guard.
Oh, good.
And we would have the first select woman there, and then we would have a speaker. We need to find a compelling speaker.
Do you think it should be the person that heads up the Purple Heart program to speak? No, okay.
You know, he's a senior and lives upstate. I think probably we could find somebody within town who could be a Purple Heart, or somebody who is in state legislature. I think we could find.
Okay.
I think we could find a speaker that would kind of draw people in a little bit.
You ever think of Roger Crossman? He's the one who's in the parade for Memorial Day. He's my age, but he's been through Vietnam, Afghanistan. So he's a very accomplished speaker. And that's why I think, I know the guy, so if you want right, I would like to work on this event with you.
Sure.
Do we have a date? Is it going to be on the 11th?
No,
November 10th.
Okay. So let's have, maybe we could set up a small subcommittee and have a meeting, maybe early September.
Yep.
And Joe.
yeah, I would like to do it. And what about Senator Bloom?
Yeah.
Leanne, Joe, and Laura.
Wait a
I would like
minute,
to-
if I may, I don't mean it, I'm not showing my politics.
Me?
I don't think I would send him to a veteran. I agree.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of his statement about
But
it.
you know what, you wanted someone compelling, that man shows up to everything.
Well, he does.
He might be.
When they
You
show
know,
up,
we still got elected. We should certainly invite him, but maybe not to be the president.
He would come.
Yeah,
He would come.
Well, I think it would be, how do you say it, assistant attorney, or governor, or what's that title? Lieutenant governor that was at that lunch, and she was packing.
Yeah. And I'm sure we could find, together, we could find probably somebody who is a Purple Heart. That's a Purple Heart.
Yes, I mean, I don't know if you know Deidre Daly, her father was Michael Daly.
Oh.
Got the Purple Heart, believe, too.
Yeah.
That would be good.
I think Roger is a perfect fine person, so.
Okay, so Joe, Suzanne, and I are going to work with Julie on the breakfast. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
You just decide you want to go in that direction, let me know.
Thank you. Okay, so let's meet,
That's right, if anybody on this commission has any, like recommendations or connections, please filter it through to Julie or one of us.
Great.
Okay?
I'll talk to Jack.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. All we got.
That's all you got?
I'm sure it's a
Well,
long
good for you.
time.
Do you get to go on vacation soon?
March.
Oh.
We're not compelled to follow the school calendar.
All right. So, on to old business, I would ask Carol to give us the health department report.
Well, there really isn't a lot this time. The new variant is supposedly like a cold. You might get a little fever and a sore throat. It doesn't last long, and I guess you don't have to be quarantined as much. But there also is next Wednesday, here is another clinic in the back here for anybody that needs to get their shot.
What kind of shot?
I don't know what,
Oh.
I think it's a booster.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh,
Moderna.
that, oh, okay.
The booster's the same as the
Okay.
one dose two.
Okay.
Booster two is all the same thing.
And the sign up is on Dan.
Okay.
Anything else?
That is great, thank you. We approved our minutes, so I skipped ahead. It's not only because I forgot them. So Ron needs,
So public comment would be if anybody was here in person but not on the phone. Anybody on the, Ron or Dan, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I don't. This is Dan. I don't. I just want to affirm, I know I made some comments advocating for this juvenile review board. Julie, I in no way am looking to just lump this in your lap or anything like that. I think it's a problem we need to, over time, figure out a solution for. I just want to make that clear. I didn't want to, yeah.
No, I do
I do
appreciate
know
that. I think Lorella was sitting super tall when you were talking. I was like, Loretta.
I have an ally.
Good.
Thanks, Dan.
I can say whatever I need to because I'm on the phone. Like, you can't hit me from here, so.
I know where you work.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think Ron had to jump off the call because he had to run to the airport, so.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thanks, Dan.
One,
Yeah.
Dory, I know I've been hearing about charter revisions.
Yes.
We know where that stands. I try to watch it on public television, and it sounded like they were progressive too. Do we know where it stands and if they accepted our comments that we submitted?
They have 3 more public hearings scheduled. One is tonight at Town Hall. They did, I think they took into account our proposed changes. You can look at it online, you can look at what they're considering online, but they have 3 public comment sections scheduled.
Okay, so as far as we don't know for sure yet if they've taken our comments or not.
Well, they
Just
just
consider-
received them from us, but I don't know if they've done anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, because when I was watching it, they're going page by page, I mean, they're being incredibly thorough.
And you can look at the copy of it. I think they did, I know they definitely adjusted the handicaps. They took that out, thank God, and changed some of the language. I don't remember the specifics of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question I have is, I've not heard anything from our age-friendly folks.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you have, or they just, with the charter revisions going on, I thought maybe this.
We're still working on it with, we were working on the proclamation for the first selectwoman and the letter for her to send. And
So they are working on it.
We are working on it. We're meeting with them next week. So I'm charged with Brenda to do the draft letter and the proclamation so that when Brenda Cupp, the first selectwoman, announces it and proclaims that we're doing it, we're on the ground running. We should be meeting next week, I think, with some fairly senior advocates.
Is there a time frame that they have for Brenda to submit?
As soon as we have the final draft ready, we'll bring it to her and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do one thing, one of the things I asked is if anybody had any suggestions for speakers in the fall. We have Anthony in September. Was there anything else that came to anybody's mind since our last meeting that, you have suggestions? Who you'd like to hear from? I mean, we always talk about having Marie Allen back.
I would love to invite somebody from the Department of Veterans Affairs in November. We're going to hopefully have a much more involvement with them from this fall, so I would like to see if somebody can speak.
Okay. Anybody else for October? If you think of anything, please drop me an email or Julie.
I'm thinking, there seems to be an interest in learning more about our
our mental health services in the community? Am I sensing that from people? I mean, or do enough of us have a good handle on them already? And would something like that would give us more information, like, for example, from LifeBridge or from an understanding about the mental health services in the community, would that be?
Social services. How about some social services?
Sure. I mean, I think that would be, I sense a sense of wanting to know more of what's out there, and, so I don't know.
Would that be Melinda or someone else?
It would be Melinda, and probably, it would be great to have some of the social workers there. They're part-time, but Melinda. But that would probably be Melinda and I, but there's a lot. There's a lot of services.
That would be
Right.
That would be great, yeah. And she'd be familiar with LifeBridge and
There's tons.
child
There's
development,
tons.
because she deals with
There are
it all the time.
And a few of us are well versed in that, but I don't think everybody is.
I mean, even I was thinking of somebody from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it might be good to have somebody also from, the police have started their behavioral health response network. That group is,
Yeah.
and we're on that.
What is that address?
It's just, talking, it's with mobile crisis, DCF, Family Children Protective Services for the Elderly, LifeBridge goes, Child Guidance goes, We Go, Operation Hope goes. It's just kind of coordinating response to whether it be frequent flyers or issues that are coming up that the police are seeing and that we're seeing. We're having a big increase in our number of police and fire referrals, and that's coming out of COVID. It's people hoarding, and it's not just seniors. It's mostly not older seniors. It's mostly my age seniors.
Yeah.
And it's also people that have acquired it really began.
That emerging, yeah.
And it really, I was very impressed.
Yeah.
What they were
I
doing.
don't know enough to talk about it, but, the social determinants of health now that they're all talking about.
Yeah.
And identifying those, addiction services and smoking and obesity and, just all these social determinants, homelessness, is there food insecurity, and it sets up, in fact, I think we looked at one of those health network things where it set up, the state on a statewide basis and where they came out with social determinants of health and Fairfield was rated, remember, right when they first started?
Yeah.
And it identified which cities had higher social determinants of health.
That was the tough thing, right?
It was a tough study, right?
Yeah. I sent that out. I would resend that.
It was a tough study, and there is a lot of attention being paid to that in the health community. And there's a lot of outreach on a statewide level that's happening with Hartford Healthcare and Yale and Haven, where they're going into these areas of need and coming up with these social determinants of health to identify high-risk people.
I think you would be a great speaker.
No, I would not be a great speaker. I'll be a great speaker. I'll be a great speaker after I sell my 2 houses and renovate my kitchen and bath. Then I will be a great speaker.
Okay.
But I mean, that study is really interesting.
I will resend that.
Yeah.
Because that was probably right at the beginning of COVID. Yeah. Okay, that's a great idea.
A lot of cobwebs still.
Yeah. But,
Yeah,
there's in fact, in hospital medical records now, we identify how many social determinants each patient has, and it triggers a social work consult and things like that in order to try to capture them so that you don't get these frequent flyers in and out.
That's great. That's really great.
So we're thinking October, something directed towards mental health. Yes. Through the social services department. Is that what I'm hearing?
It is, but I will see if we can get, I'll see if we can supplement, this group has become very meaningful to us. It really is helpful. So I'm wondering if we might be able to get somebody who could speak to that. Okay, let me work on that a little bit. We'll do something social services.
Okay, and then November, Department of Veterans Affairs, so we still have September. So maybe Mary Ellen, your suggestion would be a good one. We have a little time. Do you have a suggested speaker since you're so busy?
Let me ponder.
Okay, great. Somebody as knowledgeable as you, yeah, could offer.
Let me ponder, and I might have time by then to research it.
She may have something fabulous.
It might be after the
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay, Mary Ellen, great.
No.
You'll let us know.
Yeah, we eye contact with all of us at one point, so yes.
Leave it to Julie, she'll
I'm
point it out.
not shy.
Thank you, everybody. Anybody have anything else? Because I'd like for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes.